your appetite. AM 1380, The Biz. We mean business. 1380thebiz.com.
Are you one of the 9 million Floridians living in a community managed by a property manager or HOA? If you've ever wondered what your rights are as a resident or what your role is as a volunteer board member, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Condo Coaches, your resource for when your gated community starts to feel more like you're stuck behind bars, or when that guy next door decides that a hot pink Chevy on cinder blocks really sets the tone for the neighborhood. The Condo Coaches is brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. And now your host, Johnny Torres.
Hello from wherever you may be listening. We are streaming live on Facebook when we record these shows. It's typically Monday, 1 o'clock, but you got to go to facebook.com/thecondocoaches to sign up. So make sure you like our page. Make sure you sign up for notifications so you can watch this show live online from anywhere in the world. You can also listen to us live from anywhere in the world as we broadcast over 3 radio stations in Florida and Tampa Bay. We are on 1380 The Biz. In Orlando, we're on 660 The Answer. In Miami, we're on 880 The Biz. And you can listen to all of those online from anywhere in the world on the iHeartRadio app. And so, I mean, you can catch this show anywhere and everywhere. And of course, you can catch past episodes on YouTube, SoundCloud, and you can find us on our website, thecondocoaches.com, thecondocoaches.com. If you're listening for the first time or watching us for the first time, it's the Condo Coaches. We are a team here of educational, informational resources for those of you who live in a condominium or homeowners association or under a condominium or homeowners association, and we're just here to help. You know, we address tons of questions and issues in every episode. We have special guests. For those of you watching on Facebook and seeing the good-looking gentleman right next to Dean Akers, our head coach, is Dr. Mehra, and we'll be getting to Dr. Mehra in a little bit. So thank you so much, Doctor, for being on the show today. And of course, as always, head coach Dean Akers. How are you, Dean?
Jonathan, I'm doing great, and I'd just like to share with you, the show keeps getting traction. We did 2 trade shows, one in Southeast Florida and one in the Tampa Bay area this past week, and our booths were packed. And one of the things that kept being answered, you've addressed. Condo Coaches is a whole group of volunteers. They're not allowed to solicit or anything. They're volunteers to truly come out and help.
Yeah. And everything. I mean, you know, we've addressed financial, communicative, logistical, construction. I mean, there's really, anything that having to do with an HOA or a COA, we're here to help you through those issues. We're going to put you in touch with the experts that you need to help get these issues resolved. And a lot of times we can even save you some legal bills.
Oh, big time. Big time.
So before we get to our guest today, I did want to tackle some of the questions that we are getting from our website. And again, if you'd like to submit your questions, you can do so on our Facebook live stream. You can also do so at thecondocoaches.com, which is where we got these from. This question comes from Tom in Sarasota. He says, I'd like to get a reverse mortgage, but my condo association refuses to comply with FHA. Do I have any recourse?
You don't really have recourse with the condominium association per se. If he'll write into Dean at the condocoaches.com, we help condominiums look at their FHA qualifications. Right now, roughly 70% of the condominium associations in the state of Florida have lost their qualifications. And for cash buyer, it only makes it really available to cash buyers, or in this gentleman's case, reverse mortgages. So it's really big. And all I would suggest is if you have it, send us your condominium name, send an email, and we'll get one of our FHA experts to send you the data just to find out, and we'll verify you're not FHA qualified for you.
Well, today's episode is going to be a continuation of our last episode, which is about communication.
Right.
And that could very much be at the heart of this issue. It may not be that they're refusing to comply. It's simply that, again, like you said, they don't qualify anymore for FHA, and so they don't really have anything to provide, but haven't adequately communicated that to him.
That's you're spot on, Jonathan.
Yeah.
It more than likely they're not qualified.
Okay. And we're going to take another question here. It's Jack in Pinellas County. Do you work with a board of realtors as far as education? Realtors, of course, likes to stay up on what's happening not only in their industry, but in their communities. He says he's been on a board for 35 years, but his current board is not doing anything in terms of DBPR, the Division of Business and Professional Regulation, education. And so will the Condo Coaches come out and do an educational seminar for a board of realtors?
Our condo coaches, especially our legal condo coaches, at no charge and not soliciting their services, will be happy to come out to any condo association and go through all the rules and regs, or more importantly, to some of these big associations like realtor groups. If they really want to understand it, we can give them kind of the cliff notes through one of our legal condo coaches, and that's absolutely free. And they're available. All they've got to do is reach out and just say when they need them, and we'll schedule them, and they'll come out and donate their time as a volunteer.
Yeah, and for those of you listening or watching this show, you can schedule an appointment for one of the condo coaches to come out to meet with your board by calling 813-331-5415. 813-331-5415. You can also email us. Dean gave out his email address. That's dean@thecondocoaches.com. Or you make sure that you're covering all your bases. You can also copy help@thecondocoaches.com. That's help@thecondocoaches.com. And of course, you can always just reach us via our website, thecondocoaches.com. Let's see. We got one more question here. It's unfortunately, Paul here is a bit unhappy with his condominium association. He's from Broward County down in South Florida. What are my avenues of recourse when my condo board is dysfunctional, incapable of making decisions, and possibly misappropriating money? Those are some pretty strong words there. But it seems like he's pretty unhappy with things not getting done. The community was built in 1974. There are termites, roof problems, sewer issues, and he's asking if the condo coaches are able to help.
Well, the answer is yes. We have volunteers down in that area that deal with all three of those areas. But the biggest thing that gentleman would want to do is reach back out to the help, and we could send him or meet with him with an assessment that he could give to his board of directors or whatever. I will tell you this, that when we've done the assessments with an angry homeowner, we've found that it's a communication problem. There's not people stealing money. There's budget issues that when we're able to really show them what it is, it helps everybody get level set.
So it could be transparency and communication issues.
Right. And I'm not a lawyer, but there's a lot of disclosure ability for a owner to come in and get information from the boards. And I got to tell you, they're all volunteer boards, so they're doing the best they can, I know. And sometimes they may need us as a condo coach, one of our volunteers, to come in and kind of be the glue that pulls them back together.
And he's, as a side question, he also asked, in this kind of a situation where he feels that the board is really not living up to their responsibilities, like you said, it could be a communications issue or a transparency issue that's easy to resolve. But if it is a more serious issue, is there something the state can do, or the local government or state government can do to help rectify this issue?
Well, he can obviously reach out to a DPPR, one of the department reps down there. And again, if he sends help, we'll give him the links to those people down there.
Okay.
We've been talking to them. In fact, they're right now getting approval with the state to come on our show. And we've got the person that handles the whole state.
Great.
And he's going to become a coach also.
Excellent.
So but my generalization would be that more than likely it's communication. And if we start off there, the DBPR is not going to come in and just rifle through everything and upset the apple cart unless there's major violations. And those don't sound like major violations. They sound like communications.
Excellent. Well, again, it's the Condo Coaches radio show. We're here to help you with your community and condo association issues, whether you sit on the board, whether you're a resident. We'd love to talk to you, come out to your community, kind of help you through some of these problems, and certainly get you the help you need to get to navigate these issues. You can reach us at 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. Help at thecondocoaches.com is our email address, help at thecondocoaches.com. So Today's episode is going to be, as I said, a continuation of our last episode, which is communication, trying to get some of the dysfunction out of some of these boards, and how to communicate effectively, not only within the board, but also with the residents as well. You've been gracious enough to bring us an incredibly professional coach here today that's going to help us through some of these issues. He is Dr. Mehra, and he is the CEO and CMO of Mehra Vista Health, one of our guest coaches for today. He has been at the helm of Mehra Vista Health since 2007. He's a board-certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. So we've got all of the personalities covered. I mean,
yes, sir.
Right. All. And see, he's got over 20 years experience in patient care, also serving as medical director publicly at publicly held managed healthcare companies over the course of his career. So welcome, Dr. Mehra. Thank you for coming on the Condo Coaches.
Thank you for having me this afternoon.
You hear the tone, and this is something that happens, I think, more so than ever before, about the tone, in emails and text messages. We're going to get into that in the next segment, but I really appreciate you being here because there is a lot of psychology behind how one communicates effectively and in a calm manner. So we'll get to that in just a bit. The Condo Coaches radio show. Again, you can watch us live on Facebook, facebook.com/the Condo Coaches. Also, big news for the radio show, Dean. And I know how excited you were about this. We are officially a podcast on iTunes.
Oh,
which is incredibly exciting. And so if you go to iTunes, you type in the Condo Coaches, we will come up and you can hit subscribe and not miss a single episode. And of course, we started off on SoundCloud, which is also incredibly popular, but not everybody can get on iTunes. That's kind of an exclusive club. That's a pretty big deal. And so again, the availability of our show worldwide is pretty amazing. You can find us on iTunes, Facebook, and online at thecondocoaches.com. Doctor, we'll get into all the different personality traits, because there's a lot to cover, but, psychiatry and communication coming up on the Condo Coaches. Thank you for listening. We'll be back.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
In the current real estate market, all too often dictated by banks and foreclosing mortgagees, it is vital that your homeowner and condominium association has a team of experienced litigators who will fight for your community. There are many alternatives to banks that aren't paying and just stalling. Business Law Group fights for community associations to collect past due assessments, fees, and costs from unit owners that don't pay. This also impacts the paying owners. Business Law Group can help with this unfair situation and offer multiple solutions that can help break this logjam. Their office is comprised of attorneys with experience in homeowner and condominium association law. The next time you need a professional law firm to represent you, call Business Law Group. Bring in the team that's going to fight for your community. Contact the Business Law Group. Their phone number is 813-379-3804. That's 813-379-3804. Or visit blawgroup.com. blawgroup.com.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Thank you once again for listening. The Condo Coaches radio show, anywhere and everywhere you want to listen. Again, the news right there at the end of the last segment was our debut on iTunes. So you can catch the past 5 episodes on iTunes. You can listen to them there. You can listen to them on SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course, we're streaming live right now on Facebook as we do every time we record our show. And you can find that at facebook.com/the Condo Coaches. And if you want to send in a question that you'd like for us to answer on the show, that's thecondocoaches.com, thecondocoaches.com. It's about maybe a third or about halfway down the website. Very easy form to find. Send us your info along with your question. We'll be happy to answer it here on the show. With us as always, head coach Dean Akers, fired up over some really great trade shows. And I'm sure you're going to give us a few more stories about the people you heard from at those trade shows. And of course, our guest coach today is Dr. Mehra. psychiatrist, child, adolescent, adult. So no matter the maturity level of your residents or board members, we've got them covered in today's show. In the first segment, we covered a few questions that we've gotten. And of course, people get angry, people get frustrated. And even sometimes when that's not the case, right? Even when they send an email, because not everyone is an eloquent writer, the emotion, right? The tone gets lost in translation when it goes from someone speaking that question versus to someone writing that question. Give us an idea of what is the best way to approach these types of delicate issues? I mean, before you get to the point where you're making accusations, you're angry, you're frustrated, when you're dealing with sensitive problems like these, be they financial or structural in somebody's community?
That's a great question. So I think that whether you're on the board itself or you're a resident or a homeowner, I think y'all have already kind of hit the nail on the head. It's about effective communication, but it's also about informed communication. What I mean by that, on the responsibility side of the board, reviewing the condo documents, the legal documents that governs the board, that person needs to have an understanding of that, as well as the resident or the homeowner. One needs to always understand what their rights and responsibilities are within the confines of the homeowners or the condo association. I think that's the number one starting point. And then kind of going on factual information and not on hearsay, because obviously where there's multifamily dwellings, there's neighbors talking to each other, and we all know that sometimes an element of gossip enters in. Sure. And maybe one neighbor did attend the board meeting, and what that neighbor heard is not actually what happened. It's no disrespect to that person, but they will then project onto it what they wanted to hear, and that then gets repeated in the confines of the or the other homeowners, and then before you know it, you might have a revolt on your hands. So it's important to get the factual information.
So your recommendation would be, let's say in this scenario, the gentleman's already pretty frustrated. He says, "Oh, I pay $300-400 a month, to have this community upkept, to have it up to speed," and he feels that there's structural problems, there's termite issues, there's sewer issues. And so is it best to maybe go through that discovery process first in terms of when you send the email saying, "Hey, I'd like to see a spreadsheet. I'd like to see, what's really kind of the best way to approach that if you are getting worked up about some of the problems in the community?"
Sure. I imagine that in most associations for the residents that there's a process they have to follow. And so it's important for this gentleman, certainly understanding that his concerns are legitimate because they're upsetting him. Mm-hmm. And so following the process of what if there's an issue about the termite or water damage, what is the process? Is there a form that he has to fill in and then is submitted to someone in the association, and to follow that recourse? Now, if he has done that, then he then needs to, again, himself look at what his options are in terms of the confines of the association, how it's organized, to determine what his next steps are.
In talking about the response, right? Because again, we're talking about volunteers here. It's a common problem that we talk about, that it's easy to forget that the people serving on this board, as the president, treasurer, secretary, they're all volunteers. They're all your neighbors. In terms of how to respond to that email, because again, he's already angry, right? So his frustration level is already up here. How do you begin to de-escalate that problem?
Sure. As a member of the board, the first step is to check your own pulse. Right?
Yeah. Amen.
Right? Is
maybe
that,
read it, step away from the computer for about an hour.
And, to your point again, because since so many communications in this day or time are not picking up the telephone, they're either via email or text message, or even Facebook for that matter. Mm-hmm. And we all know that there's misinterpretations of the written word. So the association member who is reading that email or a letter, or whatever it may be, is first to take a step back. And yes, they are volunteers. They are devoting their time. Take your own pulse and then look, and then try to, in a very succinct way, address the homeowner's concerns. The single worst thing, and I do this when educating parents about their children, is that, sometimes children who are maybe 5 or 6 years old ask very difficult questions and very pointed questions. And as a parent, sometimes you take a step back and go, wow, How do I understand that? Well, or how do I respond to that? Well, the greatest single mistake that anyone can make when they've been asked a question is to not to respond.
Sure.
Right. And sometimes people, because they don't know what to say, they don't respond at all. And then you're talking about, inflaming someone, that for someone that is already angry or upset or agitated, that agitation is going to go through the roof. So you think of a way to respond to the questions or the concerns, and then respond in a very simple and appropriate way to what the concerns are, and then create the mechanism for a dialogue. And hopefully, if it comes across that the homeowner is agitated enough, maybe it is a meeting that's warranted. Again,
Sure.
depending on what the protocol is for that association, to help alleviate the homeowner's concern. Because, while they are volunteers, but they have also committed to being volunteers. No one has held a gun to their head to force them to do that.
Right.
So as such, they need to remind themselves that they are in a leadership position within this association, and as such need to act that way.
Our guest coach today is psychiatrist Dr. Mehra, again, a board-certified child, adolescent, adult psychiatrist, over 20 years experience in patient care. Thank you so much, Dean, for bringing him in. And I think you would agree, he touched on something that we've never really maybe brought up as a solution, but you can certainly call for an emergency meeting, right? If you feel that there's a perpetuating problem out there, or maybe it's a gossip issue where you need to kind of bring everybody in to get them all on the same page.
Absolutely. I've actually had 2 meetings in the last 8-10 days, and they were disconnects like we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sat down and walked through our survey or our review we do, we found that the disconnects were all about communication. And when we went through it, it was like, I never knew. I didn't know. Just like the caller about the FHA.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks his board is trying to screw him over on a reverse mortgage. They're
Right.
not FHA certified. The board might not even know how to do that. So they're just saying, we don't know. And with the condo coaches, they can reach out and we can help them in any of those aspects.
Well, and in that situation, it may be the case that they haven't told them that they don't know.
That's probably
or that they're trying to find the answer. They're trying to get all their ducks in a row before they write back, and they just haven't, again, because people are doing this on their free time, especially around this time of year. People are pretty busy. There's a lot going on.
Well, Dr. Mehra hit on a point with kids. When kids ask those transparent questions that they ask, a lot of parents just say no. They don't hear the question. So what happened is the kid hears no, and the kid may be upset with the answer no. And I learned a long time as a young man in sales that no meant not now, or I didn't get it. And so you have to be really careful when you think with some of those words.
Right. Yeah. And providing absolute like no's is probably not the best thing. Again, if you take the example of a child, when the child asks a difficult question, number one, they are interested in 2 things. One, that they've been heard. And then secondarily, the response just needs to be very simple, but offered with some explanation.
Gotcha. Well, we're talking communication and the psychology behind communication. And trust me, it applies to your board of directors, being a resident in a community with an HOA or a COA. If you have something you'd like to contribute, you can email us right now, help@thecondocoaches.com. You can also call us. Dean will answer 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415, or you can go to our website, thecondocoaches.com. Again, our guest coach today, Dr. Mehra, has over 20 years experience, board certified psychiatrist. And we're talking about, of course, the dynamics, because, I think, would you say that the more diverse the community you live in, maybe the more likely that there are to be those kinds of communicative issues?
Define what you mean by diverse.
It could be age, it could be, ethnic, it could be financial.
Sure. I believe all those variables fit into it, right? Because if we just take age as an example, in this day and time, a person who is age 80 may communicate differently than a person who's 15 or 20. Right. And so in a location, you may have owners that fit both of those age demographics.
Okay.
And so the starting point, again, in all of this is mutual respect as well.
Dean's going to jump in, but give me a second because we're actually, we got to jump over to the next segment. But you can reach out to us, thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com. 813-331-5415. And again, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you want us to be. We're going to be there. Go check it out right now, thecondocoaches.com. You can watch all of our episodes right there on our website, thecondocoaches.com, with guest Dr. Mehra and head coach Dean Akers. We'll be right back.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
At LM Funding, they believe that condo associations and owners shouldn't have to take on the financial responsibility of delinquency and the hassle of collections. That's why they buy problems. Before LM Funding, condo associations would have to hire attorneys to collect bad debt. But LM Funding is changing that, turning debt into instant cash, freeing condo associations from the burden of collection and allowing them to continue their operations. For a no-cost consultation, visit lmfunding.com or call 866-235-5001. It works like this. LM Funding is going to make sure you're not left holding the bag for something that shouldn't be your responsibility. They buy problems. LM Funding will purchase the right to collect delinquent dues on your behalf, making sure the association never has to pay another legal bill for collections again. Let LM Funding buy your problems. Call 866-235-5001 or visit lmfunding.com. That's lmfunding.com.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Hello, the Condo Coaches radio show all across the state of Florida, all across the world, on iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio app, and of course, thecondocoaches.com, where you can watch every episode, because we take this live stream from Facebook, put it right up there on YouTube, so you can take it with you wherever you want to go. With us, head coach Dean Akers, as always, and of course, we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Mehra of Mehra Vista Health, and we're talking psychiatry, psychology, and we got into diverse communities. You know, Florida is incredibly diverse, and in some of these communities, especially after the downturn that we had in the housing market, we're seeing, of course, a lot of rental and investment properties. So that's obviously increasing the type of diversity that we're seeing in a lot of these communities. I mean, I saw firsthand, because I was working in the home building industry at the time, that there were some communities that had started off selling $1 million homes. And then over the course of the downturn in the housing market, by the time it started to settle down, we were talking about $200,000-$300,000 homes. So that's a huge disparity in terms of financial diversity, as I said. And you were going to add to that, Dean. You were talking about again how to address some of these maybe diversity conflicts, where again their background, the issues are going to be different from person to person.
Well, we had a board that I visited with recently, and they said we're having huge communication issues with our residents. And the two board members I was talking to shared with me, they don't understand. We do our board meetings on Friday mornings at 9:00. And I go, okay, tell me more about it. Is it a plus 55 community? And they go, no. I said, what's the biggest complaint? Well, they're always complaining because they have a job and we're retired. So there's a huge disconnect with this community, where the community may want to be involved. The volunteer probably says, look, I can do it in the mornings because it's very convenient for me. I don't want to be up late at, doing that. So there's a huge disconnect, and they're both mad at each other. And oh, by the way, there's not a rule that says you have to have board meetings at night, morning, whenever. So there's a communication where the volunteers should try, as volunteers on the board, to, what do I want to call it, Dr. Mehra, accommodate or whatever, right. Because the anxiety that it's going to create for everybody is going to supersede having a meeting at 6:00 to 8 and have it maybe stop certain, so it doesn't just ramble forever.
Well, and in terms of a little bit more on what we were talking about in the first segment, in terms of responding, right, as the official body, do you see it effective to maybe, instead of one person writing that response, maybe as a group or as a board saying, okay, this person has brought this issue to our attention, let's all work on a response, to this individual? I would think that probably takes some of the emotion out of it.
Sure, because it is a board, right? So such that there isn't one person that's identified or vilified, is that the response, yes, should be from the association board. And I think I want to get back for a minute, if you don't mind, to the point about the meetings, occurring in the morning. Is that what is inherently happening with that is that in some people's mind, you're probably already creating some suspicion. Right. It is inherently, because it is about being transparent. It's about transparency and engagement of your membership or your homeowners association, right? Because sometimes, we focus on, the termite and the mold and stuff. And while that's important, another overriding concern in this day and time is people's personal safety and security of the grounds and of all units and all the people that live there. And whether it's crime or potentially other activities that may be going on, you want your residents to feel like they're truly part of the association and are engaged in it. And the way you achieve engagement is by, like you said, accommodating those folks and finding a time and place where it's convenient for people to come and participate.
Now, in this case, we, of course, now more than ever have some incredibly valuable tools out there available to us to help with transparency. One of them is even what we're doing today. We're live streaming this show. Someone could video those board meetings and then post them somewhere for people to watch, or record the audio of those board meetings. We talked a little bit offline. Is that acceptable? In terms, if I want to sit down my phone and record the entire board meeting in an audio file that then I can post somewhere, is that legal? Is that something you would encourage?
Well, it's acceptable. And if you look at, again, get your attorney to look at it, but if it's 718 or 720, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just a coach, but if you look in there, the recording of meetings is permissible by a person attending. I kind of agree with you. With technology today, there's absolutely no reason in the world to have your board members not be able to get a video of it later, or not your board members, your residents. You could post it on a private page on your site if it's private business, or you could email it to them, a link. And yeah, I think today not using technology is probably a little bit of the failure in the 9 million people's communication in Florida.
Sure, because now, I mean, even if you don't live there, let's say you're an investor in that community and you're across the country, through Google Hangouts, I think is an amazing tool, or Skype, or, there's so many great tools out there where you could stream the meeting live, be it the audio, be it the video, and have people, participate, because they can send questions, they can send comments through those means. And then there's a recorded version, or there's a recorded entry of that board meeting that, again, you can leave out there for transparency.
I would encourage boards to do that. And by the way, today I'm holding it up, but you can take an iPhone and just hold it horizontally.
Yep.
You can buy a tripod for $50 that'll hold it, and you can record it, and you get, high def quality video. And
there's lots of video services out there that'll let you post it for free.
Oh yeah.
YouTube is one of them. Vimeo. There's tons of sources out there where you can upload these. If you would like more details on some of those strategies for transparency and communication, reach out to us. Dean would be more than happy to talk to you about that. 813-331-5415. That's 813-331-5415. help@thecondocoaches.com. help@thecondocoaches.com is our email address, or you can contact us through our website, thecondocoaches.com. We've been getting some great questions through our website.
You got a question here?
So, we'll absolutely get to that. Okay. And so thecondocoaches.com has a couple places where you can send in your question, and you can download the booklet that everybody's going crazy over. Dean, I think you said you gave away over 400 of these at the trade shows. It's the top 10 things. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you used the term gave away. We had people that saw that booklet.
Yeah.
And asked for it. So it wasn't like we were standing out trying to pass out, pamphlets.
Sure.
People saw the value in that 34 or 35 page booklet. They came back and they said, wow, this is incredible. Can I get one for my other board president or my other boards? And what was cool is we can A, bring it to them, we can mail it to them, or it's located where?
On our website.
On our website.
That's right.
PDF download like that.
Exactly. You give us your info and just let us know that you're interested in the Condo Coaches, and we'll actually send it right back to you in an email with a downloadable link.
Yep. So it's been an overwhelming success because it gives so many communication tips, talks about basics of being a board member,
governing documents.
Yeah, it's just
elections.
I call it a cliff note.
Sure.
It's Cliff Notes. If some of the listeners might be familiar with that back in the day, and it's the Cliff Notes of what a responsibility is for a board member.
Right, and it is called the 10 Things You Need to Know If You're a First-Time Board Member. You can download it right now at the Condo Coaches. It's a free download. It's not a promotional booklet or anything. It's an educational resource, free for you at thecondocoaches.com. Again, just go to thecondocoaches.com, download 10 things you need to know if you're a first-time board member. With us today, our guest coach is Dr. Mehra, 20 years of psychiatry with Mehra Vista Health since 2007. Again, board certified in child, adolescent, and adult psychiatry. This stuff is incredibly fascinating to me just on a personal level because I serve on boards for organizations. I don't serve on my community board, but I do serve as a member on organizations, which they can benefit from a lot of this information as well. When you're talking about being that board member, right? And maybe there is that what are some proactive ways that the board can form a better relationship or a more productive relationship with the residents?
I think first and foremost, each individual board member realizing what is motivating them to be on the board. They need to answer that question. What are their objectives? What are they trying to achieve? And then collectively as a board, then coming up with specific strategies on how to engage, the ownership. One thing that we were talking about communication, right? A homeowner or a condo owner may not necessarily know what rights they do have. Is it worthwhile to periodically, just not anything long. People don't read long documents, but just maybe a one-pager and say a list. These are your rights as a condominium owner of this association. If you are unable to, I'm just giving this as a theoretical example. If you are unable to attend the regularly scheduled 9 a.m. board meeting, please, you may submit your questions or your concerns in writing to us at this email address, or you may call us. People may have concerns. You're busy. It's Christmas. You're leaving for work. Your child's got a cold, but you've seen something suspicious going on around your condo, and you're not sure what to do with it. Well, yeah, this is the mechanism to remind people this is how you communicate. That's just one way to try to engage the condo owner.
Now, Dean, we've also discussed in previous episodes, talk about welcoming committees and certainly new resident events and that sort of thing. Do you feel, Doctor, in those types of scenarios, because, again, we're talking about psychology and where those might possibly be maybe create some more division, in terms of, only this group of people is going to show up, so I'm not going to go because that group of people is trying to do this and they're just trying to, put themselves in a on a pedestal, or, so is there any maybe negative repercussions that maybe we should keep in mind when trying to be proactive to bring the community together?
I think that's a great question. So one principle to keep in mind is that anytime you got two people, you have the potential for a conflict. Yeah. Right. That could be happening in a church pew. Right. But I think it's ultimately to set the standard is about leadership, and how is the board communicating their.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to let you finish.
Sorry.
Well, but since you stopped, we'll go ahead and we'll let you finish that thought in the next segment. It's the Condo Coaches radio show at thecondocoaches.com. We'll be back in just a bit after this.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
In the current real estate market, all too often dictated by banks and foreclosing mortgagees, it is vital that your homeowner and condominium association has a team of experienced litigators who will fight for your community. There are many alternatives to banks that aren't paying and just stalling. Business Law Group fights for community associations to collect past due assessments, fees, and costs from unit owners that don't pay. This also impacts the paying owners. Business Law Group can help with this unfair situation and offer multiple solutions that can help break this logjam. Their office is comprised of attorneys with experience in homeowner and condominium association law. The next time you need a professional law firm to represent you, call Business Law Group. Bring in the team that's going to fight for your community. Contact the Business Law Group. Their phone number is 813-379-3804. That's 813-379-3804. Or visit blawgroup.com. blawgroup.com.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
You can also reach us at 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. Help at thecondocoaches.com, which we do have a question we're going to get to in just a minute from help at thecondocoaches.com. Our guest coach for today, Dr. Mehra, psychiatrist, board certified. We were talking about maybe, when someone tries to do the right thing, some of the negative repercussions that may come of that, in terms of a welcoming committee, maybe some social gatherings, or how do you try to be sensitive to not creating more division in those types of scenarios?
Sure. I think the where people run into problems is when they try to complicate things. Keep things simple. I'm just making this up. Let's say that every third Thursday of the month is a welcome social hour for all new residents or owners of condominiums. Keep it simple. Or if there's some special event or occasion that's not going to be partisan in any way or not controversial, keep it very simple and generic. Maybe the board provides some cookies and some punch, and as a way of with no formal agenda other than for it to be purely social.
Well, and you made a very small mention there, but of something that could be a potentially big problem, especially considering that we're coming off of an election cycle. Now, I love politics, right? But in this type of scenario where it doesn't apply to what was going on the board of a community, it's important, right, to keep those types of personal elements and preferences out of the equation.
That is correct. For example, in January, I would not be having a Trump victory party in a condominium association.
Right. Exactly. So, and that, may not be because you like or dislike the president. It's just because you don't want to alienate folks in the community. You want
to avoid those type of controversial things. You, again, think about it being engaging people and being inclusive.
Right.
And keeping it simple.
Not only that, not bringing those types of discussions. I have a Facebook group for the community I live in, and for the most part, everybody was pretty good about keeping it non-political. There were some couple political things that crept in there towards the end, but again, those things only create or maybe lay the seeds for future problems.
Right. You don't want to be divisive in any way. The other thing I just thought of is, sometimes there's a negative event that's happened where there's been a death, an injury, or an accident. Well, maybe it's up to the association to rally the owners and say, we're doing a food drive for this person who is now confined to their house because they can't work for 2 weeks. Does anybody want to contribute? Right? And keeping it's nothing formal going on. You contribute if you want to contribute. But again, figuring out ways to create an esprit de corps among the residents.
Well, and again, improving those lines of communication a lot of times comes down to building relationships. Oh, totally. My community has done something, and again, I'm just a busy guy, so I think I'm out of my home more than I am in my home. But they have like bonfires every weekend. Now that it's getting nice and cool here in Florida by our standards, they'll put a bonfire together, or they'll have a flag football game and that sort of thing. And all those things could only help, right?
Right, you're exactly right. The way to improve the communication is to build those relationships in a non-threatening manner.
Yeah. Dr. Mehra, psychiatrist of over 20 years, board certified with child, adolescent, and adult psychiatry, is our guest coach for today. Thank you, Dean, for bringing him in. You wanted to add a note to that.
Well, I was president of a board that I was on for my community, and it was always arguing about different things, traffic, because we were more of a bigger community. And I changed the whole dynamic of the board by doing one thing at the beginning of every board meeting and every even annual meeting. I'd say, we're going to go around the room for however long it takes, and all I want is one thing you love about blah, 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 which was our community.
Okay.
And I would have people that would be arguing about this facet. Somebody would share a story why that was so valuable to them or saved their husband's life in this particular case. And everybody quit. Everybody was like, this is really amenity, not a negative.
Sure.
And just going around the room. And by the time they're done, when you have 30 or 40 people telling you what's right with your community, it's just a different dynamic.
That is a great point. And again, if you have some of these communication issues, Dean has a team of people ready to help you. Help at thecondocoaches.com. You can call us 813-331-5415 or check out our website. I mean, I love our website, and it's already proving to be fruitful. Got lots of questions for today's show, thecondocoaches.com. Speaking of which, we have a question from someone that actually emailed us just now during the show. If you want to go ahead and share that with us, Dean.
We had an email from a lady, Rebecca, out of Miami, and it was a great question. She says, our association allocates 2 parking places per unit. I have my family that's living with me, and it takes 3 parking places. Well, what I would suggest is, and if she wants, she can reach out to us again, and we can look at her rules and regulations. But more than likely, her rules and regulations are 2 per unit, because if everybody had 3, there's not enough parking in Miami for it. Right. I will tell her what I had one association member share with me on this exact issue, which was so cool.
It's a really common
huge
issue.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. What this particular individual did, and I'd encourage Rebecca, she went around and found Mary, this other individual, and I'll use her name Mary, that had one location, was a widow, and she didn't even have family. And she went to her and said, my son's living with me. Could I buy your decal or whatever? And then this particular case, the lady said, well, your son should be able to park here. My unit number is 12. Here's a decal, park in place 4. So you created 2 win-wins, and nobody was angst. The rules clearly stated you had to park in your designated area or you could be towed, which if the rules say that, then the rules say that.
Right.
And that's generally because you couldn't afford everybody to have 4 or 5 cars in there. Nobody would park.
But you could go to the board and at least let it be known that, hey, Mary has this extra spot she's not using. She is allowing this other family to use that spot.
I don't think you need to go to the board. I didn't go to the board.
All right.
Or the person didn't go to the board.
Yeah.
I think if Mary has an extra spot and she was to say, hey, Dr. Mehra, here's my decal.
It's her spot to do.
Yeah, it's her spot to do with whatever she wants. And now check your rules and regulations.
Sure.
But I'm 99% positive as a coach that the rules and regulations don't preclude you letting somebody else park with your decal in a spot, period.
And we're getting, just to touch on that, because in the community I used to live in, it was a huge issue because it was a townhome community. So your home only had the garage and then the driveway, to park.
Right.
So it became one of those issues where the visitors parking was always filled because there were people who were parking there that shouldn't have been parking there. They weren't visitors, they were residents taking up those spots. When you're talking about those kinds of issues where there are limited resources, again, if it's already dictated in the governing documents of that association, what do you suggest in terms of reaching out to the community? I mean, when I talked about, the Facebook group that's been very successful in my neighborhood, are there some other ways you've seen for members or residents to communicate?
Well, again, if it's an issue, I think the biggest thing people have to understand is if they bought into the rules and regulations, that's part of their purchase was to have that. Now, obviously, if they had everybody parking in the visitors and their people couldn't stay that came to truly visit with them, they'd be upset.
Right.
So it's more about, back to Dr. Mehra, it's about community understanding and communicating. The quickest solution I've seen from people that have shared this with me is go find a neighbor that always uses one place, buy their decal, ask them if they can do it, whatever, and then you're totally compliant. Everybody love, love, love.
We have only a couple minutes left, but Doctor, with all the ways of communicating today, And again, most of it is text based, because anything beyond that is pretty much a phone call, right? So we're talking about written communication. If there were maybe a couple of pointers that you could recommend for every time you are handling a written communication within your community, what would you suggest that be?
Yes, sir. The first one would be keep it simple, short, and sweet. And secondarily, assume that if it was published in the newspaper, would you be okay with it?
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I think that make a lot of people second guess. I mean, and certainly now with social media, I mean, people put a lot of stuff out there that they wouldn't necessarily be proud to be associated with, but they somehow feel some freedom because they feel that maybe this is, it'll stay within this platform or it kind of goes away because they don't see it after a certain amount of time.
Well, we've evolved to where there's definitely positive elements to texting and Facebook and all that, but we've evolved where the freedom of the internet creates no boundaries. So you're exactly right. It's kind of like you just emote or say whatever you want, and then it's just kind of gone.
When it's really not.
It's not gone. It
Right.
can profoundly impact someone else's life and emotional well-being.
All right. Well, Dr. Mehra, thank you again for being with us today. He was our guest coach, Mehra Vista Health. He was a 20-year board-certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. We are definitely going to have you back. I'm sure of it.
Thank you.
Head coach Dean Akers. We've got some trade shows coming up, so you want people to sign up, right? We got newsletters that are going to be going out soon. If you sign up at thecondocoaches.com, that's thecondocoaches.com. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes. Don't forget iTunes. Subscribe to our podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the Condo Coaches radio show. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Merry Christmas, right? Next episode.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Condo Coaches, brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find us online at thecondocoaches.com and join us this same time next week as we help you navigate life in your managed community.